Well, Woj dropped a bomb here in the last hour from his Twitter account, reporting that the Utah Jazz are no longer just dismissing calls when it pertains to trade offers for all-star guard Donovan Mitchell. Woj tweeted out the asking price appears to be steep, but in the wake of Utah's recent Rudy Gobert blockbuster deal to Minnesota, the Jazz are no longer simply dismissing calls on Mitchell, sources said, after previously shutting down inquiries on Donovan altogether. Rival teams say the Jazz are showing a willingness to listen on possible trade scenarios. The Jazz are open to trades across the roster too, but Mitchell is certainly the organization's most valuable and coveted asset. Also, keep in mind, earlier in the week, Tim McMahon was on Brian Windhorst's podcast, and he said there are, quote, whispers around the league that Utah Jazz CEO of basketball operations, Danny Ainge, is not convinced that Donovan Mitchell can be the face of a contending franchise. That's from Tim McMahon, very plugged-in reporter from ESPN. I don't know who Danny Ainge is convinced on nowadays. Utah's general manager recently said in an interview, change is inevitable in the NBA. Things evolve in the NBA, so I couldn't sit here and say anybody is untouchable. There's no intent there to trade Mitchell at all. But I'm going to say this. If Woj put it in the atmosphere, he put it out there for a reason. Woj just doesn't put random things out there. When he says stuff, I listen. And him putting it out in the atmosphere that Donovan Mitchell is not unavailable, to me tells me that Mitchell is very available for teams out there. And expect the New York Knicks, who have long coveted Donovan Mitchell. Boy, if the Knicks in one offseason could get the point guard that they wanted in Jalen Brunson and then turn around and flip some of their assets, I do believe Utah would trade anybody on their roster. Obviously, they can't move Brunson until December. I think they'd even trade Julius Randle to acquire a guy like Donovan Mitchell, definitely R.J. Barrett to bring in Mitchell. Pretty much what I'm saying is expect this deal to happen with Donovan Mitchell. I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved before Kevin Durant. Woj just doesn't put random stuff out there. If he's saying the Jazz are now open to the idea of trading Donovan Mitchell, expect there to be fire where there's smoke, all right? Woj, I've seen too many times when he puts these little nuggets out in the atmosphere, usually things happen, and they typically happen quickly when it's teams open to trading guys versus a Kevin Durant demanding a trade, which obviously is going to take a lot of time. But when you hear a team is willing to move off a player, I would tend to believe, even though the general manager is coming out and saying there's no intent to trade Donovan Mitchell right now, we've seen many general managers, front office, execs, owners lie before. It wouldn't be the first time. If the right offer comes around, my guess, a New York Knicks package centered around R.J. Barrett, but not limited to just RJ for Donovan Mitchell, I would expect the Jazz to not only be listening, but potentially be ready to strike. It looks like they're in complete rebuild mode now. Let me know what you think about a potential Donovan Mitchell trade. Where does Donovan rank on your totem pole of all stars in our league?